talking about how technology is changing the way fashion works. And if you saw the nearshoring presentation that was here earlier, that was about how the supply chain is shifting from like a trade perspective from that point of view. So what does it look like to bring manufacturing closer to home? What does it look like from that point of view from a regional perspective? We want to tackle some of that from a tech perspective. And we're going to do that by talking not just about the production process and manufacturing, but we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to do the whole design to production flow, everything that you do with your brand, from creative design, technical design, engineering, finding materials, producing, digitally, and what that looks like from that point of view. So to do that, I'm joined by three people who've got different perspectives and different slices of that design to production chain in their expertise. So I'm joined by Kornit Heldstab. He works for Kornit, which is a digital print company. I'm joined by Sareen. He's the CEO of Tukatech, which does a whole bunch of design to production software and hardware. And I'm joined by Matt Bakhoum from Style 3D. Style 3D has a lot of the 3D ecosystem captured from design, fabrics, into the production side of things. The way this works, I'm going to ask these guys a bunch of questions because I've already got my ideas of what I want to talk about. At the end, you folks should have a chance to ask them questions as well. You want to ask me a question? Fine, that's also valid. We should have like 5 or 10 minutes for that at the end of those scripted ones. Each of these gentlemen also has a booth over in the fashion technology area, so if there's anything that they say that you think, I'd like to know a bit more about that, I'd like to see some of their tools firsthand, it's on the way towards the entrance. There's a big sign for fashion technology. They'll be more than happy to talk to you from that point of view as well. I want to get started though with my questions, and this first one is to all of you. I'd like each of you to take a stab at it. And it is, before we get into like looking forwards at what might be different about a digital design to production process, let's talk a little bit about what it looks like today, that kind of design to production cycle, and what you think are the major kind of roadblocks in it and the major issues in it. And I'll go with you first, Curtis, because you're closest to me.
Yeah, so what we're seeing today is for retail, for brands, it's a long design cycle traditionally, right? You're forecasting out in the future, you have to build the supply chain. And the gap is, how do you capture those moments that are happening right now? Those memeable moments, those lifetime moments, the hot trend. And so being able to take advantage of digital design tools and digital on-demand manufacturing allows you to capture that new revenue stream, put it in place very quickly, get it out to market with no inventory, with no need to hold it anywhere, so that you can capitalize on what's new and hot and fresh now, utilizing technology that's relatively easy available within what is a standard retail available blank when we talk about apparel, and then work your way into something that maybe is a little more custom. So I think what we would like to see in the future is the ability to move even faster into all over print, cut and sew, higher end fashion, away from traditional blanks.
So the challenge then is the speed, the inflexibility, like all that side of things with the current supply chain.
Yeah, and historically I think it's evolving, but yeah, we're still running into that.
Ram, same question to you.
Yeah, so the one problem, which was the major problem as far as the cycle time was concerned, to acquire the fabric. And then the mills gave you minimums and so on, and you have leftover fabrics. And so if you demand manufacturing, yes, digital printing is now a reality and it's going to keep on increasing. Demand manufacturing is also one more twist, direct to consumer. That's when you find out what the demand is, because it's not something I am the same size, I have the same choice, whatever limited choice you're giving me. In 2012, we got motivated by Tesla. No, don't judge me from Elon Musk, but he did have a good idea to disrupt the entire automotive industry by going direct to consumer and make it what they wanted. But he took the responsibility of doing everything. So we showed the proof of concept in a college, University of, I can mention, Pomona, Cal Poly Pomona, we partnered with. And we showed where we body scanned a person, we got the avatar made in a real motion, then we designed a garment, fit it on their body, got the prints done, printed it, cut it, sewed the garment, put it on their body in 2 hours and 43 minutes. That video went viral, and I mean literally viral. That was the concept of demand manufacturing. And the biggest company making, think for a minute, bicycle apparel. What is it? Just a shorts and bicycle top, right? But it's not. Think of it from a manufacturing point of view. You see 15, 20 of them on a weekend. Everyone is different body, different shape, different size, and everyone has different graphics. They all look like peacocks, right? So I have to be almost like God to remember what size, what colorway, what print, what graphic should I have in the inventory. They were our customer, a company is called Voler, V-O-L-E-R. If you go to their website, you will see they don't even have a fit sample or show sample or e-commerce sample or photo shoot sample. All they have is total digital inventory. When you go in, because I have digital, I can offer not just 3 or 5 sizes, I offer 7 sizes in the right grading. So you choose your size, you choose your graphic, and then it is designed, cut, and sewn. So everybody will go, oh my God, it's like a tailor shop. No, it's not. They do $50 million a year. That's where the technology plays the role.
Yep.
Every 2 hours, we take down, and please go to their website, you should see it. They don't even have a label to sell. It's printed.
Yeah.
For the name.
So the challenge again, it was initially the challenge is it's a lack of speed, it's a lack of flexibility, it's a lack of proximity, and technology is the lever to pull to get to faster, to get to flexibility, to get to kind of proximity, to move all of those things in a different direction.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
My point is, it's not for everybody. There are about 1,200 companies who do this demand manufacturing, but there are sections within that technology that can be used depending on what your business model is. But the idea is to use the technology and phase out as many manual steps as you can.
Now that's a really good summary. Matt, same question to you. What are the biggest issues in that design to production cycle right now?
So there's a lot of choice right now. There's a lot of selection of different technology vendors. The choice can be overwhelming for a group of people who may not have the interest to do all of the research required to understand what the best solution is. There's lots of disparate parts of the workflow that each may have their own solution. There's solutions specific to design, there's solutions specific to prototyping, there's another set of solutions specific to just the production elements. And for people who are just trying to understand what is the best solution or group of solutions for my business, not only do I have to select the right choice, but how do I connect them? And that's not always the easiest thing to understand. How do I get information from my design solutions in a way that informs and aids my production in a useful and functional way?
I think yeah. So to sum up all three of you, it was the primary issues are it's a lack of speed, it's a lack of flexibility, it's a lack of ability to know what the consumer wants and bring that to market quickly. It's the fact that all the different steps in that design to production process are disconnected from one another, and it's very hard and manually intensive and to figure out how to connect those things. Matt, I'm going to stay with you for a second because can you explain what we mean when we talk about digital design, that side of things? Because I think there'll be some folks in the audience who maybe played around with 3D design simulation, maybe you draped some digital materials. I think there'll be a bunch of folks who haven't. So explain to me what we mean by the design side of the digital design to production.
Sure. So I work at Style 3D and we provide design and development solutions for the fashion industry. What we mean by that is we offer a solution in software that allows you to virtually prototype your samples, or prototype your designs to give you an idea of design concept without having to build out an entire technical set of assets, so that you can understand what your designs might look like and communicate those to your manufacturers so that they have a sense of what your design intention is, all the way through to virtual sampling, which is another facet of the same type of 3D simulation, fabric draping technology. It takes it a step further and allows you to do virtual fittings, which kind of helps reduce the amount of physical sample making that the industry currently has to undertake right now, which is quite extensive. So being able to do that digitally on a computer with a turnaround of a couple of minutes or a few hours versus the traditional waiting weeks for physical samples and things like that, that's what we do.
Okay, perfect, good answer. Curtis, similar kind of question to you. So walk us through what we mean when we talk about digital printing, because there's two parts to it. One is direct-to-garment digital printing, the other is kind of direct-to-fabric digital printing. Tell us a bit about how does it work and how it differs from what people will have come across before in traditional kind of screen printing applications.
Yeah, so a lot of the difference when we talk about digital printing, and I'll start with direct-to-garment because it ties very well to screen, is what you find with screen printing is it's a very analog, very manual process to set up. And you've all worked with screen printers and they require minimums, right? It just the number of colors, the number of setups, the number of pieces, it's labor intensive and it takes time. When we talk about direct-to-garment in a digital fashion, you can take that digital imagery, that digital design that has been created, and you can lay it virtually on a blank. So you choose a black t-shirt, you take the design that you've created in whatever design software you do, you lay it virtually on that blank, and when it's listed in your e-commerce store at whatever retail price you've decided, it then routes to be produced in a unit of one. So now you're able to sell any art that you've created with no inventory, with no stock, and it goes direct to consumer digitally, right? So you can build entire platforms of e-commerce stores and be as creative as you want to be. Use all the colors that you need because you're not limited to a screen order of, well, I can only afford 2 colors and I have to buy 72 and I hope that I might sell 12. And then what happens if I don't? So that's on the on-demand when it relates to direct-to-garment printing on a market blank. Again, a t-shirt or a hoodie, a tote bag. The direct-to-fabric is really very interesting in the fashion space, and it's what these two gentlemen do a lot with their technology, and what Kornit Printing is getting better at is we have a roll-fed, wide-format fabric printer that allows us to use a gamut of inks to print directly onto the fabric. So when you think about the all-over print, the cut and sew, the exact sizing that you want to get to, you don't have to now source a bolt of fabric that you've dyed and hope to create enough garments. You can be as creative digitally as you want, and again have one unit manufactured on demand. So you might use 5 meters of fabric and not need 2,000 meters of fabric to get that one design. It allows you to continue to alpha test, beta test different designs online virtually until you land on what your client wants or what the market desires.
Really good answers from both of you. And I think hopefully you folks can see the difference between what we talked about with the traditional value chain, the traditional design to production process, and how many steps and how much time you can potentially cut out by doing those different things digitally. Now, Ram, I'm going to ask you a question in a second, but before I do, show of hands from the audience. Who's heard the word microfactory before? Okay, a couple folks. Right, Ram, I'm going to have to put some pressure on you with this one. What do we mean when we talk about microfactory? Because I know you have them up and running, so it's not just theory from your point of view, and you've actually demonstrated about how you bring together the software and the hardware components together at shows like this in the past. Tell us what really makes up a microfactory and give us an idea about the stuff that Matt's talked about, stuff that Curtis has talked about, how that all gets wrapped up into one thing.
So things don't happen overnight. There is a process of learning, mistakes, pivoting. Digital printing started very early on in 2000s, but it was very expensive. In California Mart, there was a guy who was doing digital printing at $200 a yard, minimum 2 yards. So anybody who was doing the prints in-house and they wanted to kind of keep that print personal before it goes out to the marketplace for the printers, especially the swimwear designers. One of our customers who is going to use about a little bit of fabric on a bikini or a swimsuit, but he has to buy 2 yards, $400. If you have a 50 garments, 50 styles, that's a lot of money. So he came to us, he said, can I not do da-da-da-da-da? And that was the birth of digital printing, demand manufacturing for us. So in 2005, we developed a system where we could take the fabric prints, marry it to the pattern pieces, hold that as a file, and then bring all these 20 styles and make a marker for that. And each marker is of different styles, but then each style has a different fabric print and so on. The beauty of digital printing is that it doesn't know the print or the layout, so whether I had to print upside down or inside out or whatever, or different prints on different different garments, I could run in one stroke 20 different styles in 2 yards. Of course, we moved on, and today when we partnered with Kornit and Mimaki, and we're agnostic about digital technology as far as printers are concerned. But we will work with every one of them, and we have exhibited here in Magic Show. I don't know if some of you are regular visitors to Magic, but we've shown it 3 different times where we took 50 booths and put the real microfactory where we designed digitally, printed digitally, cut, sewn, and gave it to the customers while they were all on the show. Because talking about it doesn't give you the picture, okay? When you're out there and you see the whole thing, you get it in a minute, okay? Sadly, we couldn't get Kornit to bring their Presto machine, so they
In fairness,
printed.
it's kind of huge.
I was going to
No,
say,
I
those
know.
are big, heavy
It's
machines.
a big honking piece of gear.
So we sent them the documents, the data and the files, and they printed and they made a video, and they sent us the fabric, rolls of fabric. In a 100-yard roll, there were 6 prints running, different products running, and so on. So that's where the beauty of technology will come in, where you can combine all you've sold, all colors and all combinations and so on. But at the printing level, you can combine all of them together, and then the laser cutters with the cameras identify the shapes and it cuts it. So now you have a finished product. So we showed that Kornit and our cutting and sewing and designing capabilities.
Yeah.
I just want to add on to what Ram said. There's something that I want to make sure you guys hear. The digital printing process, the microfactory, the power and beauty of the microfactory is that it democratizes and liberates fashion for small business owners. You can produce in quantities of one because your work is being batched through the technology with other customers like you that just want it printed on that particular fabric. So what Ram said is 6 different designs. That could have been from 4 different customers. And it was, the factory was able to just accept all of those orders, nest them correctly, like he said, he didn't care if it was upside down, sideways, or backwards, nest them correctly, mark them so that the pieces don't get lost within the unit of the order. So, and for the factory, for the fulfiller, they don't have to mess with keeping up with which piece goes where because it's all done digitally. It's the technology. It makes it so much faster, and it allows small brands, boutique designers, creators to not have to buy a ton of stuff that they may not use because it may not go. And it's very powerful what you've done, very powerful.
It is. And when you think about what Curtis just said, It's also not theoretical. So there are networks of microfactories that do exist. There are facilities like this in the United States, there are facilities like this in Europe, in the UK. If you are a small independent brand, a designer or somebody, and you only want to make short-run production, it is available to you. That's something I want people to take away as well. It's something that is scaling. Like, to be clear, it's not something that's available. You will not find as many microfactories as you will find traditional manufacturers and traditional kind of screen printers and traditional material development partners and stuff. But if what you want to be is closer to the consumer, if what you want to be is faster, if what you want to be is more creative, that infrastructure is being built out to allow that to happen. So that's something that I think is really important to take away.
I want to say, because there are quite a few ladies sitting here, how odd would it be you walk in to a gathering or a party wearing a beautiful dress and there's another woman walking into the same dress? How odd would that be? Terrible, right? There goes that brand, right? So this brand in Pakistan did something very interesting. He created a library of prints and the colorways and so on. He's got the silhouettes in digital space. He tells the customer, choose your print and that'll be only your print. Custom made, without customizing, made to measure, but the look and the garment is done digitally printed, cut and sewn within 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of microfactory.
Yeah. It's a transformative sort of thing. Now, when we think about, so from like a supplier's point of view, sometimes from a brand's point of view, changing the supply chain in this way, changing the design to development process in this way, is something that's going to have, it's going to take time. You mentioned it before, Ram. It's going to have kind of a cost associated with it. In some case, if people who are investing in the technology, people who are building out this infrastructure, very quickly for each of you, where do you think the biggest return on that kind of cost comes from? If I put myself in the shoes of somebody in here who's a designer, or I put myself in the shoes of somebody who is a manufacturer or supplier, people who are thinking about making this kind of change, what's the readiest kind of return, the readiest source of value for them? And I'll go left to right again.
So for us, supply chains are hard to break. You've experienced it. It's just freaking hard to do. In the digital space for us, where we see the quickest return on investment is a net new revenue stream. Try a new product that you don't want to put in the traditional supply chain. So go digital, do it with something that's not your core offering, because that's hard. You've built that. It's smooth. It may not be the best thing that you have, but it's working. So don't put a new product or a new design into the traditional supply chain. Start with digital and you'll see immediate returns because it's net new revenue for you. So the costs are offset because it's net new revenue and you're buffered with your traditional chain. Then, should that grow, you could shift it to traditional if you wanted to, if the volumes made sense for you. But it continues to allow you to throw up virtual product as fast as you can with no risk. So you get great return because there's no other investment than the technology that you already have and the time for you to throw up new virtual products from a creative side.
Good response. Ram, same question to you.
Well, a lot of people have a misconception that demand manufacturing may be like a tailor shop, making one of a kind. I have factories who are making up to 44,000 garments per day. So this is where you can scale your business as much as you want, but now think of it from the traditional way that you're working. Yes, your demand manufacturing cost will go up from the manufacturing to put the product together. It's not going to be as cheap as making in a wholesale, big lots and so on. But now consider what's your profitability and margin. Mm-hmm. If you sold only 30% of the full price and then 20% of the discount price and stuck with 50% and putting all your energy to get rid of the dead inventory because your money is tied up, versus just do what you need to and make good money by offering for less money than the regular brand was trying to MSRP, and still make a huge margin. And I can show you one after the other, walk up to the booth and we'll be able to help you. It's not a dream. We've been doing it now for 12 years. I'm called Mr. Disruptor. I don't believe that we have to continue to do the same nonsense that we're doing. We must look at every step that we do in our business and see how we can disrupt it with whatever change that we can make.
Yeah, and I think the important bit for me in that is when you disrupt things and you think about things differently, you need to think differently about where your margin is coming from and what shape that takes, because traditional manufacturing is done, you're thinking about it from just pure unit cost point of view.
That's the key piece of it is, if you're looking at it side by side from a unit cost, it looks upside down and broken. When you look at it from a total cost of ownership standpoint, from the beginning of the design through the shipment to the consumer, if you look at the total cost of ownership, on-demand and digital is comparatively better. And I know that Ram has slides, I have slides, Matt, I'm betting you have a slide too, that says traditionally it's design, make, sell,
Yeah.
and then it ends up being discounted. And what we're offering is design, sell, make, right? Nothing is, and you said it a couple of times, Ram, these aren't boutique one-off tailor shops. These are fully automated factories, but to you it's a unit of one. Nothing is made until you sell it. So you get paid first, then it gets made, then you get charged for the product. Today, you're designing it, somebody is making it, you're paying for the product in hopes that you can sell it. That's that key piece.
Well, that's at the root cause of so many issues industry-wide. Everything from overproduction to sustainability to margin erosion, you name it. Pretty much anything bad that's happening in your business has some root in that traditional setup, I would say.
Can I ask somebody here in the audience if they disagree? As a sewing machine operator, you only sew one garment at a time. Is your planning or lack of understanding or lack of engineering or lack of technology that forces you to do a large quantity?
Yeah.
And Bangladesh and China and everybody was asking for bigger quantities. I'll give you lower price, but give me bigger quantities. In 2012, I forecasted that we will be producing 40% less garments in Bangladesh who wanted to produce more. And literally I was booed. 1,500 people. I don't have a crystal ball, all I have is data. I see we keep on producing. We were producing 120 billion garments for 7 billion people on the planet. So many of them, they're not even making to the stores.
Yeah.
That had to stop.
There's a massive amount.
Manufacturing is the only way to go forward.
There's a massive amount of waste in there. Matt, your opportunity to talk about the return. Like, so if somebody was to move towards the digital design, digital development side of things, where are they getting the easiest value?
So for me, it's in agility and being able to respond to the very quickly shifting market trends, your ability to adjust to them pretty much instantaneously. You can build a design today, get it in a printer today, get it cut and sewn today, and put it in front of the market today. There are new technologies now like AI, which we'll probably touch on, that allow you to visualize those photorealistically and get those in front of customers. So as Curtis, as you mentioned, you don't have to build and start, you don't have to maintain a huge stock of existing garments. You don't have to print or cut a single one of them. You can get a photo shoot quality visual of a garment in front of a market test it, acceptance test it, get an understanding of whether or not it will take off. If it does, you can make it. If not, move on to the next thing.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. Curtis, this is a quick one because you kind of touched on it before when you talked about doing things on demand to start with, to experiment, and then maybe pushing them into the traditional supply chain when it's time to scale. How do you think those two things are going to balance out in the future? If we think about having a network of on-demand production,
Right.
and then we think about having the traditional offshore supply chain,
Right.
how's that going to balance out?
So what we're seeing is it's all being brought back onshore. So within Kornit, what we're seeing with our on-demand digital technology is we're standing it up next to, in the same buildings as, traditional screen print. So what we're allowing a screen printer to do, because the quality has advanced so much more now, the hand feel, the look, the touch is very, very similar. So it's allowing a traditional manufacturer to have, again, their traditional supply chain of burning a screen, multiple screens, producing thousands of units, and the ability to say yes to a unit of one, and then they as a manufacturer can make the difference between which print technology. So while you might be moving it into what feels like a traditional supply chain, it's not going offshore. It's staying onshore inside the right kind of manufacturing facility.
Okay, perfect answer. Ram, you talked about kind of capacity and throughput of these things, like making sure that people understand it's not a little tailoring shop. This is a case of these are big operations that can kind of put through a lot of capacity in a single day. Beyond that, beyond kind of the single factory level capacity, what do you think it's going to take to scale on-demand manufacturing in a broader sense? What is it going to take to make that a bigger piece of the overall pie?
Everybody is an individual. They have their own body shape, they have their own measurements. The objective again is, I work for you, your choice, your fit, your garment. How many of you will look at the picture, whether it is in a magazine or on a website or is being displayed on a mannequin in a store and buy it? How many of you do that? Okay, well, the second question is, when you take that into the fitting room, what is the one deciding factor? Not the price, not the look, how does it fit? My mantra in fashion industry, that what I've learned, fashion is fit. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't sell. We can do all we want, but if it doesn't fit, it doesn't sell. I want to share a small story about this fit. Very small.
I was going to say, I'm going to hold you to time.
I'm from Los Angeles, Hollywood. Believe it or not, they have a fit problems too. The costume designers work with major movie stars, and the movie star is going there for costume fitting, $20,000 per fitting session. So I'm not going to mention the name, but we were the first one in 1999 to come up with a replica of a person, I'm not going to mention the name, big guy, who was doing at least $1 million a year in the fit sessions only, and we traced his body scan, made an avatar, made a product. I brought this young man, that's not him, but the objective was that the designers could actually drape on his body, do the whole garment, and he comes one time and does 20 outfits, okay? That was the birth of a technology replica that we were sending out. Then some designers came in and said, you know what, I'd like to send my fit model's body to my factories. We did that. This guy was made for whatever the name, I don't remember. We did so many brands. They wanted to do parkas, North Face, I'm sorry, okay? So we body scanned their fit model, put the North face up there so they can do that. Today when we look at the 3D technology, it must start with the physical person's exact replica in the system before you do anything. If it's not there, you're on the wrong platform and you're not going to be getting what you started with.
Yeah, and that story is actually a good segue into my question for you, Matt, because what Ram's talking about there is something that was originally done on a kind of bespoke level for a big industry, and then the same technology becomes more affordable and more accessible to smaller organizations over time. I think there'll be maybe some folks in the audience who are thinking, well, this digital design, 3D stuff sounds great. Is it just for big companies? Is it just priced for big companies? Give me an idea about how that same kind of trickle down cascading effect has happened with 3D.
Yeah, it definitely just used to be the big players that had access to this kind of technology that we're talking about. And nowadays, the technology is really made and targeted towards individuals and small brands. The price point has come down, the speed to market has come down, again, enabling people to react to these trends in a way that supports their brand.
No, that's a really good answer. Curtis, so when we think about kind of unit of one, when we think about kind of individual brands, people who want to just make things quickly, I hosted an event in the UK at a facility that uses a bunch of Kornit printers, and like you mentioned before, I saw a bunch of different garments coming off individual pieces, all for individual micro brands, kind of communities that have grown up. There's a soccer community in the UK, a bunch of YouTube guys who just launched their own t-shirt line, and they're just printing those things quickly. The other thing that they're getting from that, as well as being able to do it piece by piece, is they're not having to do it in the traditional unsustainable supply chain as well, because it's not just a case of, okay, I can get one piece and it's faster or it's a bit closer to what my consumer wants. It's a case of saying, actually, I'm getting ahead of the wider industry on the sustainability angle, because I don't need to make 10,000 of these things and then try and sell them to people. Give me an idea about how digital printing is sort of supporting that community side of things, community brands, and allowing them to be more sustainable without jumping into the big supply chain.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the core of who Kornit is. Sustainability is very important. You know, the fashion industry in general is the second most polluting industry in the world behind oil and gas. It uses a tremendous amount of water, it uses a tremendous amount of energy to do that. So the way that the Kornit printers specifically are built are to use no water, right? It's a limited amount of fixation, it's a limited amount of ink. But beyond that, it allows you to produce, again, you sell what you need, what the consumers are buying. So to Drum's point, you're not buying, marking down, giving away, and then throwing away. It's tremendously important from a sustainability fashion standpoint. So what it allows you to do if you're a smaller brand or if you're a startup and you're a community-based organization, it allows you to create a price point that's appropriate and give back to your community because you're not worried about building in a markdown margin of loss. Right? So you're capturing all of that profitability and using the funds the way that you want to because you're only producing what has been bought, not a guess.
Cool, perfect answer. Ram, we've focused on like the microfactory side of things. We focused on kind of wrapping all of this up into what for a lot of people is a new idea, right? I know it's been proven and tested for a while. For a lot of people, it's a new idea. What I want to get across and make sure people understand as well is a lot of the same innovations, a lot of the same developments and disruptions and things that happen within this microfactory concept should make their way into broader production as well. That should start to change the way we think about. So tell me how you think that journey is going. How far are we along that road towards changing wider production, not just experimenting?
Right. How many of you have heard of Kinko's? Anybody here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got inspired by Kinko's. I'm a privately held company. I started this after a major heart attack and retirement because I was really bored, okay? And I wanted to help the little guy who cannot afford whatever we are talking about. Most of you will say, well, okay, that's wonderful, but how do I buy a digital printer and a digital this and a digital that? Maybe I don't even have a pattern maker or a sample sewer or something. So we opened the Tukatech Center. Today we have 72 of them to help. And I've made hundreds and hundreds of great friends who are doing multi-million-dollar businesses who started with a $200 a month software, come into my center and start working on those. We have in Los Angeles, I think 8 or 10 of them. One of them is the Innovation Center with everything you could think of, latest possible technologies with ozone washing and denim, because denim capital is Los Angeles. But at the same time, printing, cutting, sewing, sampling, all that nonsense that we think of, how can we get it done faster, cheaper? A lot of these, not the freelancers, not the startups, we found out so many brands, like Curtis said, onshore, right? Nearshoring. What does that mean? Same brands which were originally making it here, they had the design rooms, the pattern rooms, the sample rooms, but slowly they started outsourcing, and today they have technical designers. They are worth nothing because you cannot communicate fashion on a piece of paper. Every time a tech pack goes out and that garment comes back, we asked every designer, do you ever say or do you ever hear, this is not what I wanted? 97% of the 500 people we interviewed said the same thing. Why are we still making tech packs? You need to communicate in 3 dimensions. You need to create where there is no question to be asked. I'm going to be speaking very shortly on the other panel with all the technology. So if anybody's interested, okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. We do. There is a separate technology pitch stage, which you'll see as you kind of walk down the main thing. There's a schedule published there on the different tech companies that are going to be doing short presentations over there, so you're welcome to stop by on those as well. Matt, you mentioned AI before. Sorry, I literally pointed at you very aggressively there. You mentioned AI before, and I want to drill down into it a bit. So, people in the audience, we've seen a bunch of people talk about AI from an experimental or from a design point of view. It kind of sits as its own thing a lot, though. It's a case of, okay, it's something to just experiment with some rough ideas. Tell me what you think it means to make it part of the actual design to production workflow.
Yeah, so there's actually many different facets to this. There's the design concept stage, there's the pitching and selling stage, and then there's kind of the frontier, which currently there's no solutions for. We'll talk about that in a minute. On the design concept stage right now, the technology exists to allow you to take a hand-drawn sketch and to run it through an AI and have it give you design options. So for design ideation and just getting a broad variety of ideas for what your design might end up like, there are great solutions to enable you to do that, whether it's just a sketch, a text prompt, or even say I have 2 designs together and I want to see what these might look like together. If I have a design that I like but I want to alter something individually, we can use AI to facilitate that. On the back end of things, for selling to individuals, the technology exists now to allow you to phase swap 3D renders, which typically kind of live in the uncanny valley, right? Everyone here has seen a 3D render that looks very obviously like a 3D render. Now we can take a single photograph of a person and augment a 3D render with AI to make it look like any specific individual. That enables very specific hyper-personalization of design ideas in a way that really connects with individuals and makes them kind of fall in love with the designs in a way that just wasn't possible before. There are other AI agents that are kind of in the works, and this is some of the work that South3D is doing in the background as well, but we see a future where those 2 processes are connected, where you're designing through a text prompt. You get some ideas about what a design might look like, and you click a button and you get underlying 2D pattern data that you can send through to a Kornit printer, to a cutter, and have that developed in the same step. Those are not technologies that are off in sci-fi land. They're in the near future, within the next couple of years.
Amazing, perfect answer. My last question is, again, one to all of you. So, when we talk about tech, sometimes it feels a bit far off. It feels like something that is out of reach for a lot of people. Give everyone in the audience something that they can take away today, that they can either change the way they think a little bit, or something they can take action on now that's going to make a meaningful difference to the way they're thinking about design to production.
Yeah, I think you said it, Ben, the technology is available today, right? This isn't futuristic stuff, it's there today. You can come visit any of our booths. We'll show you live websites from small developers and from major brands that are using our technology to produce in an on-demand environment. And when I say major brands, I'm talking major brands, right? Entertainment brands, athletic brands, athleisure brands, fashion brands that are using e-commerce tools, on-demand technology to produce new revenue streams today. So if you've just not thought about how do I get in front of it, I would say come check out some of the websites. The technology is way more intuitive. Again, a lot of the work that Matt's done, way more intuitive than it used to be. And utilizing some of the APIs that have been written, it's very easy to implement, right? Very easy to take away today. It's not hard, it's not scary, and it's not far off.
I'll just add to this. I've been doing 3D simulation for the past 20 years. Back before computers were nearly as fast as they are, back before the tech was as developed as it is today, it has become leaps and bounds more approachable, much more easy to learn. These are, again, not specific niche, like PhD levels of education types of things you need to learn. These are things that any individual can walk up to today and start learning and understand how to say, I have a design idea, I want to make a change to something that exists, or I want to build something entirely from scratch and take it all the way through to production with minimal friction.
Perfect. And then Ram, last word to you on this one, and then I'll open the floor to questions.
Great. So when we built a replica of a human body, we built it so that we can test the fit of the garment without having to send it to the factory to brand. The skin was same as the human body skin. The flexibility was same as if you squeeze your whatever you put your pants on. Then somebody comes up and makes a cloth covered. Cloth covered, you put it up there, it sticks, it sticks, it sticks, right? So you take a picture and you say, oh yeah, on your mannequin, this is where the garment looks. I take a picture, I send it, it doesn't fit the same way. It doesn't fit the same way the other person. Well, that problem was solved, but then we realized that it's not going to go on forever, because to do this, I still have to cut a garment, sew a garment, and put it on a dummy. The replica of the fit model, but dummy. This is a reminder for me, as the little coffin that we made, it sits in my office. It says, rest in peace, Tukatech, victim of technology replaced by Tukatech 3D. Why do I have to make a sample to see if my pattern is right, if my fit is right? That's where the technology comes in. None of my customers ever make samples. Their buyers approve it digitally and we go to production. That's the use of technology. When I say adopt a technology, please investigate to make sure it does what you really want it.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing called little bit pregnant. Either you are or you're not. And if you do get pregnant, it's a process. It takes 9 months to deliver a healthy child. So let's get pregnant with technology, because that's what I'm talking about.
That was not an analogy I was expecting.
I'm going to take my mic back now. I'm taking my mic back now.
Anyway, good analogy. But yeah, if anyone saw my presentation yesterday about tech in general and how it's becoming accessible, we talked a ton about replacing samples. Like, replacing samples was a huge piece of sustainability. It was a huge piece of speed. It was a huge piece of creativity. And Ram's got it in a nutshell. Like, why continue to do those things if alternatives exist that are better?